What's up? I'm B, and whether you are watching this on YouTube or you are listening to the podcast, I hope you are having an amazing day. Today, we will be talking about Kay and Tay. They are a TikTok couple, they are content creators, and I would put them in the same niche as Matt and Abby. I did a video on Matt and Abby a few weeks ago, and so they've definitely been on my radar for the past few weeks, and unfortunately, now Kay and Tay are more so on my radar. I say unfortunately because they're dealing with some pretty serious, I don't even want to say accusations, because essentially Taylor, the husband in the couple, was arrested in 2019, and so they're kind of dealing with the negative attention that arrest is bringing them. The entire situation is, of course, a lot more complex than what can be boiled down into like a 30-second intro, but I do like to try and give kind of like a headline of what the video is going to be about, so that way you know what we're getting into, because I do tend to ramble a lot, especially in the intros, before we really get into like the actual video content. So I'm like, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about, and then I'm going to backtrack and we'll work our way up to it, right? All that's to say, Kay and Tay are getting quite a bit of negative attention at this time, and seeing that attention is what prompted me to look further into their content and who they are and kind of what's going on with the situation. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into the video, let's go ahead and do win for the week. If you are new around here, a win for the week is just where you share something positive that happened to you over the past week that you would consider a win. Big or small, whatever it may be. If it made you grateful, if it brought you joy, if it made you laugh, if it made you smile, if you consider it a win, I want to hear about it and celebrate with you. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can leave your win in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the comment section. I'm so used to saying the Q&A section, but it's a comment section now. So you can leave it in the comment section for this episode. My win for the week is getting Liberty, my dog, a new dog bed. Last week I went to wash her like snuffle mat and her plush toys and the cover on her bed, and I realized that the zipper was broken, and so I couldn't actually take the cover off without like ripping the entire zipper. And so I was like, guess somebody's getting a new bed. What a treat. So it got here today and it looks really nice. It's pretty plush. It has like the egg carton grooves in the mat that goes in the middle of it, and so I hope she likes it. If I was a dog, I would be happy having that for a dog bed, but I haven't seen her lay on it yet. She sniffed around it a little bit. She showed a little bit of interest, but I don't think she's actually tested it out just yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, it's cute, it's cozy, and I love getting new things for my dog, and so I really do hope that she ends up liking it. But that's my win for the week, and I cannot wait to hear yours and celebrate with you. Now, without any further ado, let's get into this video. So let's chat about this. Who are Kay and Tay? Kay, or Kaylee, and Tay, Taylor, are a married couple who create content together. They have 10.3 million followers on TikTok, and I believe that Kaylee is 32 and Taylor is 30. That's the internet, or the information that I was able to find on the internet. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But Kaylee does have a daughter who is about 12, so that makes sense to me that she would be in her 30s. So anyway, like I said, on TikTok, they have 10.3 million followers, and on Instagram, they have 5.2 million. They do also have a YouTube channel with 2.38 million subscribers on it, but they've only posted one like actual video, and it was over a year ago. They do post their TikToks and like Instagrams on their YouTube shorts, but I think that they like started doing that after, like, I think they backloaded content basically, because the about section says only 4 months behind now. And so I think that like they'd been creating TikToks for a while, and then they created the YouTube channel and they were like, oh, we have all this old content, we can put it on here. And now they're like kind of catching up to current stuff, but they don't want to put it all on at once. They want to like have a consistent output. And so they're like behind, but they're catching up. And then eventually, I'm assuming the idea is that at some point the shorts will be current with what the TikToks are. That's my theory anyway. I have no idea whether or not it's true, but like logically, that's what makes sense to me. Anyway, the only actual like longer video that they have posted on their YouTube channel is titled "My Pregnant Wife and I Got a Ton of Fan Mail." Interesting title. Maybe keep that like tucked in your brain for later. Who knows? Let's talk about the kind of content that Kay and Tay post on Instagram and TikTok, which are their two main platforms. They advertise it as promoting happy/healthy relationships. I advertise it as the kind of videos that I skip over when I'm scrolling my For You page. And to be honest, when I was like putting together the outline for this video and I was thinking about how I would describe Kay and Tay's content, I really just thought like, if you don't know what kind of content they make, it's because that kind of content isn't for you. They have 10 million subscribers or 10 million followers on TikTok. If you have not seen their videos, it's because you would not be interested. Like you would not like them. And so TikTok like didn't even try. Your interests are so vastly different. They're like, we'll just leave you alone. We won't try and push these two on you. I'm going to go ahead and show you some examples just so you can like see firsthand the kind of videos that they make, but they're pretty formulaic. It's typically Taylor filming, Kay is in front of the camera, maybe she's holding their baby, and either Tay has like a surprise or something he wants to do for his wife, or he walks in on Kay doing something like super kooky crazy. And isn't it so funny? Like there was one where they were going to New York. And she was like, we have to go to the storage unit. We have to go because I've needed this thing for 17 years. And I can't tell you what it is until we get there. But we have to go. I told you I would need it. Let's go. So they go to the storage unit. And it just so happens, right near the front of the storage unit in a Target bag by itself is the thing that she needed. Oh, I found it. It's right here. See, I told you it was in a Target sack. She opens up the Target bag. There's a t-shirt inside. She holds it up to herself, and it's a t-shirt that she says that she got when she was a kid because she was supposed to go to New York, but then she ended up not being able to go, and it says I heart NY, but instead of a heart, it's a clover. And she was like, we were going to go to the St. Patrick's Day parade, but we didn't get to go, and so I've been keeping it for 17 years, and I told you I would need it. And so you watch it, and it's like, oh my god, that is just so convenient. You have kept this shirt for 17 years, and instead of being in like a box with a bunch of other clothes, it's in a Target bag by itself right near the front of your storage unit. That's serendipity if I ever saw it. But you know, you get what I'm saying. Like you get the gist of kind of the formula that they follow. Here are some examples of other kinds of videos that they make. Here's the first example.
Sweetie, what is that?
It's a chair.
Why are you bringing the chair out?
They told me to.
They told you to rearrange.
They said I could rearrange if I needed to move any furniture around.
Sweetie, everyone says that. That doesn't mean you actually do it.
Well, then they shouldn't have said that.
What? Where do you want your bag?
In the bag room.
The bag room?
Yeah, this is where we're sleeping and this is our bag room.
Kay, you can't use an extra room just for the
It
bags.
has a whole closet. I'm gonna use the closet.
Why don't we sleep in here?
Then we wouldn't have any room to walk around.
So you're gonna have a bag room and a sleep room.
Yes, actually, this needs to go in that room.
That's a bag.
Not once you open it. You have to unopen it.
In our sleep room.
Yeah, because that's Ellie's sleep. That's where she sleeps.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. What?
I don't love it.
You don't love it?
And then we just walk around and I just get into bed like this.
What are you doing, Kay? We're not gonna have pillows?
I have to use my own pillow or I won't sleep.
So we're all set up now?
No.
What?
Look, I have all my cords. This is perfect.
You're just taking over this whole space.
I like to make myself at home. And I can take like a nice bath. Then if I want to get ready, I just wheel it. Then where does it go? Everything has a home, Taylor.
Can we go eat now?
Oh, she needs me.
What?
Here's another video for your viewing pleasure.
You good? You don't look good.
I'm nervous.
For what?
Flying with Ellie tomorrow.
What could you be nervous about?
Think about all the things that could go wrong, Taylor. What if she screams and cries the entire time on the plane? And I already know I'm going to be walking onto the plane and all the people are going to be looking at me going, please don't sit by me. Please don't sit by me. Because nobody wants to sit by babies, Taylor. And that breaks my heart because babies deserve to fly too. What if she goes to the bathroom? And I'm not talking number one.
Then you take her to the back of the plane and go to the bathroom.
It's the size of our freezer.
That's okay.
Taylor, what if she falls in the toilet?
She's not gonna fall in the toilet.
Do you know where that stuff goes when you flush? Do you even know where it goes when it flushes? Because I don't, but I can tell you I've been walking underneath a plane when it flies over and I've felt wetness. And I mean, I'm not saying it came from the plane, but I just don't know. So, what about about TSA, Taylor.
What about it?
I'm already a nervous wreck when I go through TSA. Like, I have to walk through the body scanner. What does she walk through? She can't walk. Can you put her on the belt with the luggage?
You don't put her on the belt, Kay.
How do they scan her body if she's in a stroller?
I don't know.
These are questions I need answered, Taylor.
Is there something I can do for you?
I am craving a Pop-Tart for breakfast. But like the hot kind that pops up out of a toaster.
You want me to get you a hot pop-up Pop-Tart?
It's like a little present.
It's good.
Perfect.
We're gonna be fine, okay?
At least we're gonna be like the first flight of the day.
That's right.
For good measure, let's do one more.
What on earth?
Surprise!
That's what you were doing down here?
Yeah.
That's why you came and took my pillow. I was laying on it.
She's making you a couch bed.
Love it.
Sweetie.
Sweetie, this is so sweet.
Did she get to bed?
Yeah, she's sleeping.
Do you want to stay up and watch shows?
I would love to.
I figured we could lay on the couch and watch Suits.
You made it my home away from home.
The couch bed?
You look so cozy.
I also made you some snacks.
Wait a minute. Are these my puffer chips?
Yeah, a little blue bag.
They're my favorite.
Still good?
Yes.
And then I have a tea. It's like a sleepy tea or like a bedtime tea.
It smells like Christmas.
It's like Christmas?
I'm not kidding.
Hopefully it's good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
Try it.
Oh, okay.
It's so good.
That tastes like Christmas.
I told you.
What?
I don't know how bad I needed this.
What, a couch bed?
I know it sounds silly, but I felt like such a burden to everybody this weekend because I got here and I was sick, and it just makes me feel really loved.
Oh, I do love you, sweetie. And I would just love to cuddle with you and relax and watch a show or something. Sweetie. Sweetie. It is funny. I love you.
I love you.
You want to cuddle? Okay.
I'm assuming now you're on board, you get the vibe of the kinds of videos that they post. Now, typically, the kind of comments that Kay and Tay get are overwhelmingly positive. People very much being like, couple goals, Kay is so cute, she's so sweet, she radiates joy from the inside out. Lots of comments on how cute their baby is. Like, people in general typically have a very positive view of Kay and Tay, but they have not been exempt from criticism in the past. Some of the things that they've been criticized for include, quote unquote, hiding Kay's first daughter. Kay was married before and she has a daughter with that first husband, and she does not get posted on TikTok. And see, this is where we're going to get into some complex conversations. Kay does not describe her first marriage in a positive way. The way that she describes it, you are meant to infer that it was a toxic, physically abusive relationship. She and Taylor went on Matt and Abby's podcast, the Unplanned podcast, back in January. And the title of that episode was Kay and Tay on getting cheated on, divorced, and hiding our 12-year-old from the internet. And so in that episode, Kay says, like, we used to fight. I mean, like, fight. And she also alludes to victims of domestic violence, the statistic that it takes them on average 7 times to actually leave and like be able to break away from an abusive partner. And so that's like a statistic that she references in this conversation. So that leads the audience to be like, oh, her first husband's not a good guy. And it implies, I'm not saying that I believe this, I'm not saying that this is a fact, but it implies that he is an abusive person. At the same time, based on what we see publicly, again, I'm not saying that this is a fact, I'm not saying this is true, I'm not saying that this is what I believe, I'm saying this is what, as an audience member, you can infer from information that is publicly available. It would seem that Kay did not get primary custody of their daughter when they divorced. It appears that her daughter's father has custody and Kay was ordered to pay child support to him. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Kay has said that the reason that her daughter isn't included in their social media posts is because her daughter's father does not want her on social media. He does not want her included in those videos, and he does not want her posted publicly to Kay and Tay's audience, and so she is respecting that. And I think that that's great. Like, I think that we should protect our kids. Like, kids should not be used for content. And so like, I'm glad that he has said like, I'm not okay with that and that they're respecting it. And that's the explanation. And that's great. However, it is a little bit confusing. And of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know anything that's happening. But for me, I just can't help but think like, if I was in an abusive relationship and I had a child with that person and I left, maybe at the time I was not equipped to have legal counsel or like the finances necessary to get full custody of that child, to be like, I don't want my kid anywhere near you. Like, I'm doing everything I can to have sole custody. Maybe at that time, when she and her husband divorced, like maybe she didn't have the resources or she didn't have the help or she didn't have the finances to be able to make that a reality. However, Kay and Tay are doing quite well now. And so for me, it's just a little bit confusing to imply that this person was abusive, but then to share custody and just be like, oh yeah, well her father doesn't want her on there and so I respect it. Like, no big deal. And to talk about it like sharing custody with that person is no big deal. And again, like, I understand that we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. It is impossible for us to know. And frankly, it's not really any of our business. But because it's being spoken about publicly, I'm like, that's kind of interesting. So, I just have a hard time with some of the things that Kay has said about her ex-husband and the apparent reality of sharing custody without trying to get a child out of the custody of somebody who you claim to have been abusive. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time talking about somebody else's kid in this video, so we're going to move on. But how it kind of ties into a controversy that Kay and Tay have been involved in is that recently Kay and Tay had a daughter together. And it seemed like from a lot of their content that they were kind of playing to the first-time parents angle. And yes, this is Tay's first biological child. But they've been together for quite a while. Kay has mentioned that Tay has been in her daughter's life since her daughter was about 3. So we've got about like 10 years of parenthood. And yes, having your first child together is super exciting and that's super fun and like your family is growing. Awesome, let's celebrate. But a lot of people were kind of confused because it just seemed like, oh, like you're making such a big deal out of having this child together. We didn't even know that Kay had a different child, and now we feel bad because that child seems to have been excluded because she's not biologically Tay's. Like, what's kind of going on with that? And so a lot of people did have criticism of just how the pregnancy, I guess, was presented. That criticism, I'm not entirely sure if I agree with, because I don't think that they should be using their children as their content. Like, I wouldn't want to see Kay's daughter involved in these videos. I wouldn't want to see her like being used as a prop to be like, I'm gonna be a big sister finally. I think if your kids like happen to be included, or if you're like filming a video and your kid just happens to be there, that's totally fine. But like making your children a focal point of the content that you make in order to grow an audience, I don't think that that's right. So I wouldn't want her older daughter to be forced to be a part of this content. But at the same time, I do understand why people were like, hold up, like that's kind of messed up that you are making such a big deal out of this pregnancy and having this baby, but you're not including her older sister. Like, that makes us feel bad for the older sister, that it seems like she's kind of being neglected and being hidden from your audience. So again, complex topic. But that leads into another thing that Kay and Tay have gotten criticism for, which is using their child, their newest daughter, as a part of their content and kind of exploiting her existence and using her for clicks and views. I think that's pretty cut and dried. They do make their daughter a significant portion of their content. A lot of it does revolve around her and like her first time doing something, or Kay cried when she saw Ellie had this new skill. And so they definitely do make their daughter a feature of the content. And again, I do think that that is child exploitation, and I don't agree with it. Another critique that Kay and Tay get pretty frequently is that people do not believe that the way that they interact with each other in their videos is authentic. They think there's no way that this is how you guys actually talk to each other. This is all for the cameras. We're not buying it. I'm with you. Like, I'm with you on that one. I'm sure that they are, I mean, I would hope that they're like nice to each other. And I think that this is kind of how it is with anybody making content, and especially couples making content. Like, you have who you are in person, and then you have who you are on camera. And so it's not like a groundbreaking accusation to me or an earth-shattering thing to be like, I think that they might be different when the camera's off. I don't think any of us would be shocked to find out that they behave differently when the cameras are off, because they want people to watch their content. So they're going to act in a way that they think is going to make people watch their content. And clearly it's working, because again, they've got over 10 million followers. And that leads us into a bit of a grosser accusation leveled against Kay and Tay, is that they're making fetish content. Kay and Tay talked about this when they did their first appearance on Matt and Abby's podcast, and they played completely dumb. Like, we'd have no idea what you're talking about. Like, we don't even understand, like, a fetish of what? That's such a weird thing to say. You're being intentionally dense. You know what people are saying. You know the accusations they're making. And personally, I don't think that Kay and Tay set out to do that. Like, I don't think that they set out to be like, hey, wouldn't this be a good angle for our social media content? Is like, if you acted like a little girl and we made these videos. But I just think it kind of worked out that way because of the angle that they took with their content creation. Because Kay is very petite and skinny, and she has long blonde hair, and she's got a round face and big eyes, and so she looks very young. And they were like doing the content where it's like Taylor surprising her with something, or her being upset and him having to take care of her. And then when you lean further and further into that, again, I don't think it was intentional that they were like, oh, let's have this kind of content, but it just so happened to align with that kind of content. You know what I'm saying? One example of this, and this video kind of pissed me off because there's no way this is your real reaction. But they were doing a video where it was like, Kay does this every time we go to a hotel. And she walks into a hotel room and she's looking around. She's like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. I love it. This is so nice. There's no bed in here. And I'm like, okay. You know there's a bed in there. You know there's a bed in your hotel room. You are at a hotel. A hotel. The purpose of a hotel is to have a place to sleep when you are out of town. You know there's a bed in there. Like, you know there's a bed in there. So it's making me angry all over again. But she was just, there's no bed in here. Oh, there it is. Like, So they can spend all day being like, I don't know what you're talking about. What a wild accusation. That's such a weird thing to say. But I'm convinced they know what they're doing. Anyway, let's move on to the current controversy, the details that we know, and what Kay and Tay have said in response to what is being said about them. Back in 2019, Kay and Tay were living in Alabama. They got into a bit of a dispute. We'll go into the details of it here in a minute, but Kaylee ended up calling the police. Taylor was arrested and charged with domestic violence in the 3rd degree for harassment. Kaylee ended up bonding him out, and then a few months later, they had a court date. Things were going to go to trial, but the case did end up being dismissed. According to the complaint, Taylor allegedly threw victim down on the bed, then the floor, then the bed again, and pinned her down, making her fear for her safety. Now, Taylor's mugshot and a few of the details from this arrest were circulating about 5 months ago, but I don't think they got a ton of traction. It could be the kind of content that I was consuming at the time because I wasn't really on TikTok then, and that's where the majority of their audience is. So it could have been getting a lot of attention over there and not as much on like Instagram and YouTube. But I did see a few thumbnails like that were alluding to talking about this. One of them was from the Dad Challenge podcast, but I don't know why he keeps getting recommended to me, and I keep trying. I keep being like, maybe he's different now. He's not. Anyway, I didn't watch those videos or look any further into it at that time, but I had seen Kay and Tay in passing, and so that's why I remember it being talked about back then. And I want to give a huge thank you to the Kay and Tay Snark subreddit. They have a lot of helpful links that I used when I was looking into different details for this video, including the screenshots that I'm about to read from now. So at the time when the first like round of attention was put on Taylor being arrested in 2019, Kay left these comments on someone's TikTok about it, and she said, "Tay took the fall for something he didn't do. I am so proud of him to this day for his selflessness. He was not charged with abuse. He was charged with harassment, which was completely dismissed and dropped the very next day because he was innocent," which we know that that's not true. Like, we know that the charges were not dropped the next day. They weren't dropped until April. The case was dismissed in April, but anyway, she goes on to say, "Please stop spreading false narratives and lies. He is an amazing person and does not deserve what that nasty man said about him." I'm assuming that she is referring to Josh from the Dad Challenge podcast. She goes on to say, "To even say that the podcast was good when it was hating on our appearance, which we can't help, BTW, and spreading lies speaks on your character. And haven't we been here before when you were trying to get clout by talking about my older daughter? Honestly, please do better." So even just from that like single response, we know something's off without even hearing how they're addressing it now, because she's saying he took the fall for something he didn't do, which means something happened. Like, who is he taking the fall for? What's that about? And then also she said that the charges were dropped the next day because he was innocent, when that is just factually not true. If we look at the paperwork, again, the case was dismissed in April. So that was one response. And then we've got screenshots from another response. And this is her leaving comments on somebody else's TikTok, where I don't know what the full TikTok is, but you can see a screenshot of like the highlighted details of the allegations in the case. But she says, "This was leaked by a police officer illegally. You are now in this situation by sharing it. He did take the fall for someone. He took the fall for me, who was on a new autoimmune medication and had a bad reaction to the medication mixed with alcohol. I woke up in the middle of the night, confused and wanting to leave the house and stumbling all over the room. Taylor kept me in the room because he didn't want me to drive. I said I was going to call the police because I didn't understand why he wouldn't let me leave because of my confusion from the medicine. And so he agreed that I should call because he thought that the police would help. When they got there, they misconstrued the whole situation and told us that one person had to go to jail for the night. Taylor said he would go. It should have been me, but he took the fall for me. I am proud of him to this day for that. He stayed after I called the police to make sure I was okay. We lived in the middle of the night. Tell me how it would make sense that he would wait around for 30 minutes for the cops to come if he had any thought that he had done something wrong." And so in that response, we do get a little bit more detail of, oh, okay, so Kay was on new medication, she was confused, she was trying to leave, but she was not in a state where she could leave, and so Tay was trying to keep her in the house. She called the police. Oh, it was a big misunderstanding, but they said somebody had to go to jail, and so he did it, and I'm proud of him. From what I can see, after the news kind of initially broke and people were talking about it, Kay left those responses. And kind of like anything else on the internet, it did fizzle out. That's just what it seems like from my perspective. If you're on like different corners of the internet though, and you have a different perspective of it, where you're like, no, people kept talking about it and people were saying this, like, feel free to let me know, leave it in the comment section. But from the kind of content that I got recommended to me, it seemed like, okay, we had this initial break, people talked about it for a little bit, and then people kind of moved on. Now we've got a new resurgence of the mugshot, the allegations, talking about it, being like, what's going on? Why was he arrested? Why is he smiling in his mugshot? We want to know the details. And so this time around, Kay and Tay did decide to publicly address the situation and the allegations. On Wednesday, July 31st, Matt and Abby posted an episode of their podcast, The Unplanned Podcast, where they have Kay and Tay on and basically let them tell their side of the story. And it was very interesting because the episode was about an hour long, but it seemed like there was just a lot of kind of like back and forth and contradiction. And I think that Matt and Abby felt that way too. Like, I think they were equally confused because they both were asking a lot of questions. And they were like, well, wait, we don't understand this, or why would that happen? Or that doesn't exactly make sense. Can you please explain it? And so it was very interesting hearing them kind of not even give pushback, but just genuinely like not understand what Kay and Tay were trying to say. So like I said, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of contradictory information, but if we boil their explanation down to like a bare bones recap, this is kind of what we're left with. On the night that the incident occurred, Kay and Tay were celebrating Kay's birthday. They were doing something called Winecraft, where they split a bottle of wine. That's their phrasing. They split a bottle of wine, they played Minecraft, and then they went to bed. Kay was on a new medication. She later does explain that this medication was Cymbalta, and she was not aware of any potential negative side effects that could have when mixed with alcohol. So she says, day goes by fine. They celebrate her birthday. They have their wine. She takes her medicine. She goes to bed. She wakes up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, super confused, like thinking it's my birthday. We didn't celebrate. She doesn't remember Winecraft. She is having a medical event because she is very confused. She has a lapse in memory. She doesn't really understand what's going on. And she is like, I gotta go. Like, it's not fair that we didn't celebrate my birthday. I gotta go out and celebrate. Like, it's time to go. Let's go celebrate my birthday because we didn't celebrate my birthday, and that's not fair. And now part of the explanation is that like she wanted to go, like she just wanted to leave and get out and be like, I gotta go celebrate my birthday. But then later it's like, oh no, I wanted Taylor to come with me. Like I was trying to get him to come with. I was trying to wake him up and be like, let's go, it's my birthday, we gotta go have fun. So a little bit of a discrepancy. But anyway, she's saying that like she wants to leave. Taylor wakes up. Taylor's like, no, you can't go. It's like 2 in the morning. Where are you going to go, first of all? Second of all, we've had wine. You can't drive. You're not leaving. And he keeps her from leaving the house. I can't remember who it was who asked, but it was either Matt or Abby did ask them to clarify their level of intoxication. They asked, like, were you guys drunk? Were you drinking a lot? They both said no, like we were not drunk. We split a bottle of wine and went to bed, so we were not drunk. So Tay is basically keeping her in the room. He's not letting her leave. I don't know why he has to keep her in the room as opposed to like going out into the kitchen or into the living room so you could see like, hey, we, here's our wine glasses. We celebrated, trying to explain, because you're waking up at 2, 3 in the morning. Maybe you're not super awake, you're not super coherent, and you're like confused as to why she is confused. So I don't know why he couldn't like take her out into the living room and show her and be like, no, look, this is what we did. But anyway, he's keeping her in the room, and Kay is like, I'm going to call the police because they're going to come help me. Apparently her dad was a chief of police, and so her kind of like first response is like, if I'm in trouble, the police are going to come help me. So Tay is like, yeah, call the police. Get them down here. They're going to help us. Police come down. They interview them separately. Kay says that she does not feel safe. She's trying to leave. He won't let her leave. Tay basically says, like, I'm just trying to keep her from driving. I don't want her to leave the house because she's very confused. She thinks that it's her that she has to go celebrate her birthday, but we already celebrated. Like, something seems off. I'm just trying to keep her safe and not let her leave. Anyway, what it comes down to is that they are going to separate the two of them for the night. Somebody has to leave. They didn't have a breathalyzer, and so once Kay and Tay told the police that they had been drinking, they wouldn't let I don't know if it was they wouldn't let somebody drive or Tay didn't feel comfortable driving. And here's something that's pure speculation on my part, but Matt and Abby did ask, were you more drunk than normal? Like, did you have a lot to drink? Tell us kind of about that. And Kay and Tay both said, like, no, we were not drunk. We were not drinking more than normal. We split a bottle of wine, right? Between the two of them, split one bottle of wine, not drunk. The way that they're describing it is one of you has to leave the house. We have to separate you guys, so somebody's got to go. Tay's like, Kaylee can't go. She's super confused, which we'll go back to that, okay? Bottom line is he has to leave. He has to somehow leave the house. But he's saying, I can't leave because I've been drinking. The police don't have a breathalyzer there. So for me, if I had had like a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine before I went to bed, and then I woke up in the situation and I was like, oh, I have to leave, I would be like, can you get a breathalyzer down here? Like, I know you said you don't have one. Can you please go get one, or can you have somebody bring it to you? Because I want to leave. I want to follow and comply with what you're asking me to do, but I want to make sure that I'm doing that legally. Because the alternative, which was what they're saying happened, is that if he couldn't drive himself to leave, he would get arrested. He would get arrested, he would be booked, and he would be charged. So for me, I'm going to say, what alternatives do we have? Especially if I'm not drunk. If I've had a glass or 2 of wine, and I'm going to be like, what can we do? How can we come to a resolution that doesn't include me being arrested and booked into jail? But according to their story, we got to separate you. Tay can't drive. Tay's like, arrest me, I'll go. They say that the next day, Kay went and bonded him out. Everything was good. They were fine. And like a week later, she went for a follow-up with her doctor, who was like, oh yeah, you definitely shouldn't mix alcohol with your Cymbalta. Bad idea. You were having a medical event. That's why you were so confused. Now we know. And then not a few days later, but a few months later, case is dismissed. And so for them, they put a lot of emphasis on like, we don't care about this, so other people shouldn't care about it. We worked through it and we got over it, so other people shouldn't care about it. And I'm like, that's an interesting way to phrase like a misunderstanding of like, oh, I was just confused. I was having a medical event. I don't know. Maybe Tay was like pissed off that he got arrested. If what they're saying is true, and that Kay really was like just confused and wanted to leave, and he was trying to keep her safe, and he ended up getting arrested. Like, I could see him being upset and them having to work through that, but there's just pieces of the puzzle that don't add up. And one of those pieces of the puzzle is that they didn't get Kay medical attention. And again, I know that there was alcohol involved. They split a bottle of wine. But if your spouse is up in the middle of the night, acting not like themselves, like being uncharacteristically determined to leave the house at 2 a.m. to go celebrate their birthday and not remembering that you already celebrated it, wanting to call the police, saying she doesn't feel safe with you, acting like somebody who is not herself, somebody who is not in her right mind, why would he leave? Why would Taylor be like, yep, I'll go. I'll be arrested. Why are you not being like, when you call the police, tell them you need medical help. Like, tell them something's wrong. It doesn't make sense to me that you would see your spouse behaving in a way that they don't typically behave, knowing that they just started a new medication, knowing that like they don't remember what we did a few hours ago, and they're calling the police because I'm not letting them drive. Like, something's wrong. I don't understand personally why they wouldn't have asked for an ambulance to come, or why they wouldn't have gone to the doctor the next day. Because again, if you're drinking, you're not exactly thinking clearly. Maybe they didn't even think to like call an ambulance, but like the next day, I would go to urgent care. I'd go to the ER, like wherever you need to send me to get a drug test. Like, was something in the wine? Am I having an issue? Like, what's going on? That part doesn't really make sense to me, but I digress. That was their explanation. And so basically what they are saying and what they are standing by for now is it was a one-time incident. It was confusing. The police handled it completely wrong when we called them because they shouldn't have separated us and they should have gotten me help, but they didn't. And now I know to like check all of my medications and ask about potential side effects and risks of mixing it with alcohol. And you know, we got through the situation, but they also said it wasn't a big deal to them. So, you know, either they got through it or it wasn't a big deal, but in any case, they are still together 5 years later. And they say that they didn't address it like publicly when the mugshot first came out because they know who leaked it, and it was somebody who is basically doing it for revenge against them. I don't know the details on that, but they said like, oh, we know exactly who did it, and they just did it to like hurt us, basically. Like they've been holding on to it for 5 years and waiting to release it at a time that would be hurtful to us. And that's kind of where we're at now. I honestly don't know where exactly I think the truth lies. I think it's pretty concerning that in the police report, it says that he like threw her on the bed, threw her on the ground, threw her on the bed again. Like I said, Kay is very petite. Like there's no reason that that would have needed to happen. There's absolutely no explanation or logical reasoning why, if you were trying to keep her from leaving the house, you would need to throw her. And so if that detail is true, that's very concerning to me. Like, I feel like there's probably more to the story that we are not getting if that's true. On the other hand, if Kay was confused and Tay was simply, I don't know, like not letting her leave the room or being like, please don't go, like, please stay in bed. You need to get your rest. You need to go back to bed. And she interpreted it differently because of her confusion. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense to me that would be an explanation. So, yeah, it's just like that sticks out in my head because I can understand there being confusion. I can understand having a bad reaction to medication and the police not being super equipped to help out. Personally, I could very much see a situation where there is confusion, something's gone wrong, the police are called, and they don't have the most empathetic approach to it. You know, think about the footage of like the police interviewing Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie when the police got called on them. They did not have a very empathetic approach. And so it's realistic to me that there's a world where Kay and Tay called the police and they were not empathetic or like trauma informed, and they were just like, well, we're here now and you guys aren't fighting anymore, but you called us, so now somebody has to leave. Which one of you is it going to be? And like they just kind of wipe their hands of it. Sure, like that is realistic. I could definitely see that. But at the same time, I don't know why he would be charged with something that would take 3 months to be dismissed. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a law expert, so if you know something different, definitely feel free to let me know. But like, it's not like they just said like, okay, well, you've been drinking and you're being disorderly, so we're going to detain you for the night and we'll let you go in the morning, you know? So I don't know. The whole situation is very sad to think about, regardless of like how much truth you think Kay and Tay have told, regardless of whether you would think that like the logical explanation of what's in the police report is true, or if you think that Kay really did have a medical event and she was just super confused and Tay was trying to keep her safe. Like, that situation is really scary too. And so I can't imagine that it's fun for them to have to relive this and address it. At the end of the day, I hope that Kay's explanation is true. I hope that how she is explaining it to us is the more accurate of the two descriptions, and that it was simply Tay trying to keep her safe and her being super confused about it and not being in her right mind, because in that case, nobody's being abused. Nobody's with a dangerous partner. All in all, I do hope that everyone is safe and healthy and doing well. But I think that when there are couples who make how much they love each other and how nice they are to each other a key part of their content online, that can be kind of a front for some darker things going on behind the surface. And so while I hope that that's not the case here, I would not be surprised if some more stuff came out at some point, although I hope that it doesn't. I hope this was an isolated incident. That's my hope. That is what I wish to be true, and I hope that everybody is doing okay. Like I said, safe, happy, and healthy. And so that's all we know for now. Those are all the details that have come out so far, but if you have any thoughts or opinions that you want to share, let me know. Feel free to leave them in the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the comment section for this particular episode if you are watching on Spotify. And before I go, I have a question for those of you who watch my content regularly. Because this is a video about people that I don't typically talk about, I think there will probably be some new people here, but for those of you who do typically watch my content, I did see that Paul and Morgan put out a new 24 Hours With episode. They did it with Ruslan, and I want to know if you want me to react to it. Ruslan is not somebody that I am particularly interested in, to be honest. I've tried to check out his content, see what his deal is, see what he's about, and frankly, I have a hard time. I have a hard time paying attention to his videos and actually being able to process and retain what he's saying. And so maybe part of that is the pregnancy, but when I saw that it was with Ruslan, I was like, oh, okay. So that's not an episode that I'm particularly excited about, where I'm like, oh, this will be really interesting. And so I haven't filmed a reaction to it yet, but if you want a reaction or you want a recap, let me know. If you're not interested in that episode, also let me know, because I want to put out content that you want to watch. But with all that being said, if you've left a comment, if you've liked, if you've subscribed, if you've left a rating or review, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.